All right, thank you very much. It's still TMI on the ITV network. Beautiful interview there by my colleague, Dominic, with the DG of NIMET. I mean, very insightful, giving us some of the things to expect, insights into the things to expect this year with the rains coming down, pouring down heavily. But my biggest concern is that some of the emergency response activities that have been put in place over the years to checkmate this anomaly, they are really not there for the people to enjoy. Even in Edo State, some of the emergency shelters that were supposed to have been built, I'm not sure they are, up and running. And that creates a major problem because when the river overflows their banks, where do the people go to? No place. But we hope that the authorities in charge will do something definitely about this. Okay, let's get our conversation from the Benin Network studio on course. Recently, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu approved the policy where students can actually access loans in civilized climes in the UK, in the US, in Canada, and other parts of the world where many of our people are running to. These facilities are available, able to such a point that you go through school with a loan facility, and when you're done, you start working, you can start paying up. Well, this policy has been hailed in Nigeria, but some say there are a lot of booby traps in the entire policy. How true that is, we'll find out in the course of this interview. I have with me in the studio former ASU chairman of University of Benin. He's also the head of the Department of Chemistry, University of Benin, Professor Julius Yasser. Prof, thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you, Sonny, for having me. Good morning, viewers.
Okay, Prof, we're talking about policies. I mean, one of the things that has been of major concern to a lot of people is that as beautiful as certain policies are, the implementation is always a challenge. But before we get to that point of the conversation, what's your perception about this policy on students having access to loans?
Yes, policies are good. Nigerian policies are good. Like you have made the caveat, the implementation. The student loan scheme, as fine as it could be, obviously with the conditions prevailing in this country, is almost going to be impossible because of what we know. You have seen the caveat there is for indigent students. From the ceiling of what the parents of the child are earning or entitled to, what their wage bill entitled. But if you look at that, even can professors afford university education for their children now? Let's put it that way, from what they earn vis-a-vis the cost of living. So if you look at that, and then you are telling an indigent student or the parents of an indigent student to provide tax clearance, how many Nigerians are employed? That is where to begin from. In countries, I thought we would always take a cue, look at example, look at it. In fact, this subsidy removal is not too different from the subsidy removal from PMS, because you just don't look at the conditions on ground and then you make pronouncement. How is it going to work? How are the students going to assess the loan? Because what I see here is another opportunity for constituency projects. That at the end of the day, some numbers will be ceded to some politicians. This is the number that is available to your area and all that. And they just go and trade with it. Because today, I'm here to find out what has happened to, what they call it, this school feeding program. How many persons, if anybody, even in Benin City, any school in Benin City ever even benefited from it? And so, government is just trying to run away from funding education. You have mentioned some clients. if you look at those kinds, of course, there are standard schools. There are schools that you just give, you know, a lead into others. As it were, like Avatar, the other universities follow. Look at what is going on, what government have and all that. Because in many of the universities you have around, you find out you actually have qualified lecturers there and all that. With the loan scheme coming, what I'm going to envisage here, or what government is trying to do, is to now make sure or try to get the universities to fund the universities themselves.
Isn't this speculative?
It's not speculative at all, because, you know, this was the problem ASU had with Babalakin. You remember? Babalakin was the one that led the team, a government team that negotiated to an extent with ASU. And when it became almost impossible to move further, ASU caused his removal before they brought the late Nimi Breaks. And the reason was that Babalaki brought this student loan scheme. Although it was introduced in 2016 by Bajami Miller, who is now, of course, let's say,
Chief of Staff to the President.
Yeah, to the President. But they tried it, they brought it in 2019, and then they noticed that it's going to be almost impossible. I don't know whether they know the population of Nigerian students. That is one. Two, they are saying that you have to pay the loans back 2 years after your NYSC. It is hoped that government would have provided every student or every
applicant
yes, with employment. Because those clients you are looking at, the UK, the USA, I discovered that some of my colleagues are even going to the US now to do under-the-table jobs, because the jobs are available in those countries. Do we have jobs here? I'm sure that the percentage of people employed in this country is by far lower, if not 20% of those who are asking for employment. Then, where are we going to get the jobs for these applicants or graduates from NYC program scheme, that 2 years after they must pay
back the loan?
Because other people also have to access the loan. What this means is that it is almost like as if it is dead on arrival.
Okay. Prof.
Yes.
The subsidy removal is one major issue that has attracted a lot of attention in terms of commentaries and analysis.
Yes.
And government's position was that this is to checkmate the humongous corruption in the oil and gas industry, and then to also free up monies that will be invested or injected into the polity to stabilize the polity. And government has come to say, like, they are aware of these challenges. Don't you think that this student loan policy is also part of the initiatives by the federal government to cushion the effect of the removal of fuel subsidy?
Cushion the effect of this. What we are saying here is that those who are entitled to the loans won't get it. I mean, we are here when they talked about subsidy in around 2011 or 2012, removal, and I said they were bringing in vehicles, buses, to transport school children to school, to cushion the effect, as it were then.
Yes.
We kept on waiting and waiting for those buses. They never applied the Nigerian roads. You know, talk is cheap. That is what I see in this country. Some of the policies, as it were, very cosmetic, looking very beautiful, coats of many colors. But at the end of the day, they don't eventually see the light of the day. All government is trying to do here is to withdraw, you know, funding from the universities. And you know where we are going to go from there. I don't know whether government looks at some countries of the world. Yeah, we're looking at America. There is student loan scheme in America. You have in the US and all that. But then you have employment where the applicants will be engaged to pay the loans back. But then there are other, the Nordic countries, Iceland, Denmark, and so many of these other countries, where pressure is low, where restiveness is low. In those countries, education is almost free. A woman that has just gotten married and is pregnant is at home for the first 6 years of marriage to be able to take care of babies arising from that marriage. And these are countries, I don't know whether they are even oil producing. We have resources here. So now, if you don't fund education, which is primary, in fact, me, I'm very, very surprised that even this government have not talked so much about education. The first thing is this student loan scheme. I thought president's address had taken over. We hammer so much on education because that is the basis now. You see, if you can read this, thank God, thank the teacher. It is education that is what we really require in this country. But it appears Nigerians were not interested in knowledge. And then how are we going to bring about development? How are we going to bring about industrialization? Countries where we don't have sunlight are developing solar system for us. Do you understand? And so, if you look at all of this, it's this subsidy removal at the end of the day is not going to reflect on education.
Is this policy political, in your opinion?
Well, there are two. It's two-edged. Let me put it that way. First of all, yes, the man wants to get into the minds of people, and some persons around him are already suggesting that this will be hailed by a number of persons. For instance, I mentioned that in 2016, Bajab Bamida brought this idea. Of course, so it should be one of those that would have been suggested as early as possible in this government. And all that. But so, why I'm saying it's two-edged, that I looked at the composition of the board to manage this students' loan scheme. I noticed there were some good intention. You know, but most policies of government are run by one or even two persons. I've seen in some places where meetings are even never called. And ideas,
in a board,
yes, and ideas
are
flowing out from the board. So the rest are, especially when, you know,
there's a lot of money involved.
When you have a sitting allowance to sign for, whether you attended the meeting or not.
You get your sitting allowance.
You just go there and sign and all that. So that composition is, I was happy at that, but I was surprised that even the students themselves had said that they should remove ASU from the board. I thought I saw that somewhere. And that jolted me, and I said, do these people know who have really been fighting
for their cause?
The ASU president is being vilified, seriously vilified by ASU members, that we should focus on our own problems, our welfare, and leave parents and students to their fate, to fight for themselves. But the union ever since have refused that, because the union is not actually only for the welfare of members, also for the development of the country. And then, of course, if the country is to develop, the education is vital. The tools also with which we work in the university is also very, very important. And so that is why you find that ASU had not let this to go. And we keep, you know, attending to it. But I was surprised that the students are saying, as if They are, you know, we have problem. They have problem or problems with ASU. ASU have continued to fight. In fact, there was once I was chairman and some students were rusticated from the university. ASU gave me a marching order from the national that they should reintegrate those students back into the system. And we came back here and we met our vice chancellor on several meetings, and at the end of the day, we're happy that those students were recalled. That is, you know, the students are supposed to be working in tandem with the ASU body. But I was surprised at that and all that. That ASU is asking for an improved pay. The students themselves should know that, you know, help will also help them. The forages of our members that we keep engaging, you know, to be optimal in the discharge of their responsibility is because of hardship, as it were, and all that. And so ASU were asking, pay lecturers well, and then improve the system in which we work, and then you notice that productivity, peace, and all will return back to this country. If people are well educated, it's unlikely that restiveness will be high. So that is the situation, as it were, that we have between students and ASU, with respect to the composition of the board. I will plead and then advise, as a parent, to those NANS members, if they were the one that made that statement, to quickly apologize and engage the ASU as a union and ask them, how do we go from here? Because they will get, you know, ideas and the best way to go from the union.
All right, Prof, I want to thank you for creating time to be here.
Thank you very
and
much.
Ventilating your views on the student loan scheme. As beautiful as the policy is, the concerns are what you just articulated, that if it's truly meant for indigent students, the conditions and circumstances and restrictions and barriers should be removed.
Obviously.
Tax clearance, you should earn a salary of less than 500,000 naira.
Yes.
And then, of course, you must have a director to sign for you as a surety.
Yes, the guarantor, for instance, you know, must be maybe a lawyer that has been on the bench for 10 years.
Yes.
Then, or you are a civil servant on level 12.
Yes.
And all that.
Yes.
How many persons?
And
with
if you,
the conditions prevailing here.
And if you default.
We are paying, if you default, the guarantor now pays. So how many persons will
be willing to accept that?
The average parent in the village or student applicant from the village, will they have people with these conditions or with this qualification to be able to become a guarantor to any of the students? Are we asking such questions?
It's quite sad. I was privileged to be in a bursary, a board to approve bursary for indigent students. It was an exercise carried out by Honorable Pius Salile using his NGO to provide scholarship for 50 students, 60 students at 100,000 naira each. In the course of the interviews, I almost wept when you hear cases that students are bringing forth to be able to access the bursary award. There was a particular guy we interviewed. When I saw the guy, I had to ask him, are you sure you are a student? And the guy just broke down. I was crying. There's no doubt there's the possibilities of some people trying to play fast and all of that. But when you hear their cases, you will know those who are truly genuine. And they are going through challenges in funding their education. What that means is that for such people, there is no way they can meet these conditions to access the students' loan to meet their educational needs. And that means that a policy that was designed to help them, they cannot access it. And if they cannot access it, what is not the use of the policy?
As government now, you said the minimum wage is 30,000 a month.
Yes.
if a father and a mother earns 30,000, that is 60,000.
Yes.
You multiply 60,000 by 12, you get above 500,000
naira.
Which means those people who earn minimum wage in Nigeria are not entitled to the loan. Is that clear? That is the understanding here now.
Okay.
Okay. The artisans in the market, those who hawk granite and toothpick
yes.
around, and yet train children
yes.
in the universities, how are you going to capture them? Where are they going to get guarantors and all that?
Okay.
Like you talked about students.
Yes.
There is a female student who sleeps in another female lecturer's office in Uniben, in chemistry, where I'm head of department, just to be able to assist that girl to go through school. Yours sincerely here had donated money.
Just to support.
To support. I have so many. With the little pay we are giving in the university, you just find that at times you collapse into compassion.
Yeah. Yeah.
You see some brilliant students and you say, no, this one just cannot get
just waste away like that.
Yes.
You have to give some support.
I have to support.
Well, Prof, thank you so much for the views canvassed here. We'll take a short break on TMI on ITV Network. We're back shortly with another professor. This time we'll be talking along the lines of what's happening in the sickle cell world. Stay with us on TMI Monday. We'll be back with you in a moment. Don't go away.
All right, thank you, Sunny Duke. I will quickly just go to our discussion with Natem Zaria. We are looking at the student loan, just like you have the first segment from our Benin studio. Well, because of time, I would just want us to kick the ball rolling. Natem Zaria, right? Yeah, you are a youth state, and I'm looking at you as someone who should be interested in what the federal government is proposing for Nigerian students. What's your own perspective of this student loan scheme?
Thank you very much. I really like what the government is coming up with, having known the challenges of the Nigerian youth and how to bring about the educational attainment of Nigerian youth. So I really love what is coming up. I love it.
Now, in terms of the workability of this, because we know that policies entry sometimes is to sustain them. There are sometimes you bring up very beautiful policies, policies like this, but to sustain it is always a challenge. We've had so many persons from different quarters. Some persons are praising it just like you did. And there are some persons in the academic union too are not really too comfortable with the new policy because of movement of some certain cadres of persons. What benefits would this do to our Nigerian students, but particularly those who they tag as the very poor that the scheme is meant for?
Okay, if I will, let me first say this. I've heard a few persons criticize the law. I saw something like loan scam and many more of that. You know, when such bills come, as you said earlier, people criticize. You know, everybody must not be confused with what one wants to do at the moment. I may, from my own, and I also look at some of the little issues I feel that are too extreme for concerning the scheme. But let's be sincere. I think it's very important that the scheme come up at this time. As a student, during my undergraduate, I have many issues concerning finance, going to school, and not just that. As we speak, you have a lot of students whose parents are actually poor. I have very many of them. So this is really not for everybody. It's just.
So how do you really accept those who will be assessing the loan? Because if you said the scheme is not for everybody, it's for the very poor. But if you meet the credentials, how do you government to go about knowing who is eligible for this loan? We have all Nigerian students. Don't forget that the loan allows you to study here in Nigeria, not beyond the shores of this country. So how do we begin to separate? Because the problem we are having in this country is the issue of data. They've not been able to establish that these are the very poor in the side, we keep hearing data dished out from different agencies. Then how do we begin to say, okay, fine, this is a very poor, or this is a person that is entitled to such kind of loan?
Okay, I think I've heard people talk about tax clearance and all of that. Actually, the data for the very poor, of people who are earning quite less, as provided by the scheme. Getting the data, I don't know the dimension they are going to take, but it's going to be a bit difficult. But I think perhaps maybe the CBN can use whatever means to get to the parent, because it's from the parents. If the parents are not earning up to 500,000 per annum, that means an average of 40,000. If the parents are earning 40,000, then you are qualified for the loan. But I think it's only CBN that can make that clearance from the provision, from then the information the student provides about the parents. Then they search it out and get the very students who may be able to access the loan.
Okay, let's look at benefits. How beneficial is this to Nigerian students once this thing comes fully on board?
Okay, benefits are quite immense, quite numerous for me. The first is, I would say, if we look at this university at birth, if you go to ICE now, you will see that before you write an examination, they at the door of the entrance into your exam hall, you are meant to provide receipt of payment of school fees. I have met students who were stranded, who couldn't write exams. Every semester you must clear your school fees before you write exam. And you see students who are from the poor home struggling and all of that. So I think it's an opportunity for them. This is gone now with this scheme. So everybody can go write exam. You just make sure. Now, people talk about having difficulty meeting people who can sample. I think it's a normal thing in Nigeria. If you want to have maybe for a police force or any of the force work, you are more about and sign and get guarantors. These are normal things. So you can go about get these things, and the benefits are much. You can go to school and pay later as provided after your national youth service. And if you see the provision, so the advantage are quite much. There is no tension. You can go to school. Everybody has access to it. And in fact, if you look at the scheme, it's education for all, access to education, and it's for everybody.
But some persons have also argued that instead of bringing up loans for students, that after graduation you're expected to pay back this, and you're not sure of after your youth service, you're supposed to pay back the loan. And when you look at the situation in Nigeria, where persons graduate from school, spend years before you be able to get a good job to allow you pay back your loan. Some persons are saying that why didn't the government introduce like a subsidy in terms of education, in terms of fee? If you're paying 200,000 naira, for instance, as your school fees, the government should be able to pay half of that for you and see if that would help to cushion the effect of or trying to make people go back to school rather than telling them to come and pay back money they collect. I know it's an interest-free loan, but did you see that as an option also? Like what other persons enjoyed in the 70s, having free education up to the university level?
Okay, I think it's another way the government would have taken it up. But me, I was actually looking at it from another angle. Though.
Okay.
Perhaps why not create something that after these people come back from national youth service, that can get them engaged, like the last government brought up Empower and some of these social
intervention programs.
And many students who came back from service leverage on them, and it was so I rather advise the government to create something like that, so that from there, as the students are working, they can be. Now, you made mention of something. You said, how are they going to pay back and all of that? I think I took time to go through the act. Okay, and what I realized that the act is saying when you come back from service, you must get something doing. Now, if you are employed, give us the detail of your new employer, and then your new employer can be getting 10% of your income, just 10% of whatever your employer is paying to you, and then your employer will now be remitting it to the scheme. Now, if you are not gainfully employed, like with an organization, you choose your personal,
It's your own personal business.
You're self-employed. At that point, you also the name of your business and all you're doing. Just give them an update of what is happening to you, and then even if you're earning 20,000 a month from your own private business, you can be giving 10% every month. That's what the scheme is talking about. So it's not really something pressing on people. You know, it's at least when you come back from service, you're not expected to sleep in your house. So 10% of your income is not so much.
All right, we'll look at how all this will play out as we go forward here. Thank you so much, Nathan Zara, for your thoughts this morning. All right, and this is where we end our discussion on the program this morning on ITV from our Benin studio. All right, as Sonny Duke and we've seen, we quite appreciate your contribution from our Benin and there. As we wrap up from here, I want to say a very big thank you for investing your time with us here in ITV. I promise to bring you more interesting topics in the coming days if you stay tuned to ITV and enjoy the rest of our programs we have for you. My name is Dominic.
All right, thank you so much, Dominic. It has been a smooth ride. Well, the student will be, let's just hope it survives, as people have said that it has happened before, and of course it's got a lot of backlash from the recipient of this gesture. But I'm very sure this one is going to survive. With the President and Commander-in-Chief of Armed Forces talking about President Bola Ahmed Tinubu steering the helms of affairs. Okay, this is where we'll be wrapping up TMI for Monday's edition. We do hope you had a lovely time with us on behalf of the entire crew member. Of course, I'm Daniel Praise, who said Dominic.
All right, I'll stay tuned to ITV and enjoy the rest of our programs for today.
Okay.